In 1980, a neighboring country with a direct land border launched a full-scale invasion of Iran. 8 years and nearly 1 million casualties later, they failed to take it. No power on Earth has tried since. The reason Iran can't realistically be invaded isn't mystical or ideological, it's mathematical. And the equation starts with something no military can bomb, sanction, or negotiate away. Mina's earliest memory of the road to Tehran is her father's hands gripping the steering wheel as their car wound through switchbacks in the Zagros. For most Iranians, the landscape is not just backdrop, it's a daily reality. Iran occupies 1.53 million square kilometers, a landmass larger than France, Germany, and the UK combined. The country's western edge rises sharply into the Zagros Mountains, a chain stretching 1,500 kilometers from the Turkish border to the Persian Gulf. Peaks routinely reach above 3,800 meters, with Dina summit at 4,409 meters. North of Tehran, the Alborz Range forms a second barrier, crowned by Mount Damavand at 5,610 meters, the highest point in the Middle East. Between these walls of stone lies a high, arid plateau. Rainfall here is scarce, and the land is broken by salt deserts that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. The capital, Tehran, sits in a basin at the foot of the Alborz, nearly 1,000 kilometers from the Turkish border by road. The main highway from Bazargan to Tehran runs 904 kilometers, almost 10 hours of continuous driving in peacetime, and far longer for any military convoy under threat. There are only 4 paved passes through the Zagros that can support heavy vehicles. Each is a narrow 2-lane corridor, easily blocked by landslides or deliberate demolition. The rest are gravel tracks or seasonal routes, impassable to tanks and supply trucks for much of the year. Every approach is exposed, every valley a potential choke point. For an invading force, these mountains and deserts are not just obstacles, they are the first and most enduring line of defense. The terrain itself imposes a cost before a single shot is fired, shaping every decision that follows. On September 22, 1980, Iraqi divisions crossed the border, launching what was intended to be a swift campaign across Iran's western frontier. The plan called for a mechanized drive of nearly 500 kilometers, aiming to seize key cities and force a surrender before Iran could regroup. But the terrain dictated a different outcome. Iraqi armored columns soon found themselves funneled into narrow valleys and mountain passes, their advance slowed by switchbacks and exposed roads. Every kilometer gained meant another supply convoy stretched thin, another bridge to defend or rebuild under fire. The Karen River became a recurring obstacle. Iranian forces, anticipating the invasion route, demolished major crossings near Avaz, including the vital Karun Bridge. Iraqi engineers raced to throw up pontoon replacements, but these makeshift structures proved vulnerable to airstrikes and artillery. The loss of just a handful of bridges forced Iraqi convoys to detour through secondary roads, often little more than gravel tracks, where fuel trucks and tank transporters became easy targets for ambushes. In the words of an Iraqi logistics officer, every bridge lost meant another night stalled in the open, another day without enough fuel to move the tanks. As the campaign dragged on, the cost mounted. Over 8 years, the war claimed close to 1 million lives, soldiers and civilians alike. The original offensive stalled short of Tehran, never breaching the central plateau. Instead, both armies settled into a war of attrition, their supply lines battered by sabotage and the relentless demands of the landscape. The Iran-Iraq war remains a stark warning. Even a neighboring state, with direct access and initial momentum, could not overcome the friction imposed by Iran's geography and the deliberate destruction of its infrastructure. A single armored column, once across the border, faces a daily arithmetic that quickly turns punishing. Main battle tanks burn through 3.2 liters of fuel for every kilometer. A single brigade of 150 tanks needs over 1,000 cubic meters of fuel per day just to keep moving in desert terrain. But in the Zagros, the real bottleneck isn't just fuel, it's the bridges. Only 3 crossings in western Iran can bear more than 45 tons, yet a modern tank weighs 55. Each detour adds hours, exposes convoys to ambush, and stretches the supply line thinner. When a bridge is lost, it is not a simple matter of rerouting. Temporary replacements take 9 days to build and cost $2 million apiece, all while engineers work under threat of artillery or sabotage. Colonel Saadi, an Iraqi logistics officer during the Iran-Iraq War, described watching his entire convoy crawl at 8 kilometers per day in the mountains, barely faster than a marching soldier. Every stalled fuel truck meant less water, less ammunition, and more time spent exposed on narrow roads. For 10,000 troops, the daily water demand alone reaches 5,000 cubic meters, most of it hauled by tanker from hundreds of kilometers away. The math compounds relentlessly. Each kilometer forward multiplies the risk, the resource burn, and the cost. The further an invading force pushes, the more the terrain turns every logistical calculation into a spiral of delay and vulnerability. In Iran, geography is not just a backdrop. It is an active force, converting every day of advance into a new set of burdens that no airstrike or technological edge can erase. Iran's arsenal is engineered to punish every advance. Noor cruise missiles, each able to strike targets 120 kilometers away with a 500-kilogram warhead, line the coast. Alongside them, NASR missiles, smaller but still packing a 200-kilogram punch over 35 kilometers, wait in mobile launchers, hidden and ready to fire. Drones fill the sky. The Shahed 1T6, produced by 1,000 each year, can travel over 1,000 kilometers and loiter for hours, searching for convoys or air defense sites. The Mohajer 6 stays aloft for 24 hours, relaying targeting data or dropping its own bombs, enabling strikes in waves that overwhelm defenses. Commodore Khalili outlines the swarm doctrine. 80 fast attack boats, each armed with missiles or heavy guns, moving at 45 knots, attacking in coordinated packs. Even a few can force a warship to back off or risk being hit from all sides. Below the surface, 1,200 naval mines can be deployed quickly, turning the Gulf and Strait of Hormuz into hazardous territory for any force that tries to cross. Every tanker that passes through the Strait of Hormuz carries more than just oil. It carries a slice of the world economy. According to energy analyst Leila Rashidi, about 20% of all crude oil traded globally moves through this narrow waterway, along with a quarter of the world's liquefied natural gas. In the first half of 2025, that meant nearly 21 million barrels of oil every day. There is no easy substitute. Rerouting tankers around Africa adds 2,500 kilometers to each journey, raising shipping costs by $3 per barrel overnight. When tensions flare, insurance premiums for a single voyage can jump from $1,200 to $3,500, and the price of Brent crude can spike by $15 in a single trading session. The International Monetary Fund estimates that even a brief closure of the strait could shave 0.3% off global GDP, hundreds of billions lost in weeks. For every military plan drawn up in a war room, there's a cost sheet waiting in the world's trading hubs. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a local flashpoint, it is where regional conflict becomes a global economic shockwave. A full-scale invasion of Iran is not prevented by myth or bravado, but by a cost sheet that grows more daunting with every kilometer advanced. The most current integrated model, drawing on US Army and NATO data and adjusted for Iran's terrain, pegs the incremental cost of sustaining a single brigade-sized force, about 10,000 troops, for just 3 months at roughly $5.8 billion. That figure includes engineering, fuel, water, air defense, mine clearance, and the naval assets needed to keep supply lines open through the Strait of Hormuz. For comparison, the 2003 Iraq invasion, with far easier terrain and shorter supply lines, cost $56 billion for the combat phase alone. The cost per brigade in Iran is nearly triple that of Iraq, with a cost-to-benefit ratio exceeding 1.5 even under optimistic assumptions about political gains. Analysts at RAND warn that these numbers still don't capture the political backlash or global oil shock that would accompany any attempt to seize and hold Iranian territory. Meanwhile, CSYS researchers point to technological advances that might trim the bill, but no credible model brings the cost below several billion per brigade. The arguments made by the logistics officer, the Iranian engineer, the naval commodore, and the energy analyst all converge here. The price tag is not theoretical. It is the practical sum of terrain, supply, attrition, and the risk of global economic blowback. That is the real barrier, and it's one that no airstrike or quick campaign can erase. Iran's real shield is practical: terrain, logistics, and the global chokehold of the Strait of Hormuz. Airstrikes or sanctions remain possible, but no military can easily occupy a nation of 87 million across 1.75 million square kilometers. Invasion isn't impossible, it's simply a cost no one is willing to pay.